Hello, so this is a session on, again, in beginnings of SPSS. How to merge is going to be number one and a quick one because we have done this in class. And the other one that we're going to look into is recording a variable, something that is very important, helps us to truncate a variable with many options, and also for a better understanding. And also sometimes if a variable is miscoded or need to be reverse coded, we can use that feature as well. So here I have opened SPSS, my own data set. I'm sorry, the snoring is my dog. So I would like to show you first how to merge. And I don't have an open, but I have a saved data set in Excel. So sometimes in marketing, in different departments, we can have various sources of data, different types of data. And so it would be quite useful to be able to convert them into the same format. So what I do, usually I just open new data, and it's going to open blank. And what I do is I that is not working. It's interesting. My SPSS broke. Apparently my SPSS didn't break, it just looks a little different than the one at work. So what you can do, you can open dataset through data, and I actually have a different dataset, and I have it in Excel, so I just change file type to Excel, and I choose dataset here for merging, and I go ahead and open. It's going to take a minute. I hit OK. There it is. Now I have effectively two data sets. One that is a new imported one into SPSS from Excel, and the master data set. I always like to work out of the master data set because I already have values and labels populated. If I work from the other data set, what would happen is that I would lose all that information because all the values that would be imported and merged into this data set wouldn't have the labels and values. So let me go back to the main data set, and here we go. Now, in order to merge the data set, I will go to Data, Merge Files. I am adding cases. I'm going to add, I believe it's dataset 2. Nope, dataset 3. Dataset 3 is my dataset 2 is blank. And it showed me what hasn't been matched. So I am choosing, because I know the dataset structure, I'm choosing to move these over. And then as you can see, TRU_A and TRUE_A just misspelling. And again, it goes back to me knowing the structure. My dog is snoring. All right, here we go. So I'm going to pair them, and they're going to all be renamed into TRU_A, because this is what the master file has it, the spelling of the master file. And I'm going to do the same with the true B. And pair. Now you can paste it in order to view it in syntax and run it out of the syntax. I strongly recommend that you work out of syntax, because this is a good way of learning syntax, sort of backwards, starting from point and click to syntax. But for purpose of this video, I'm just going to hit OK. Shush. My dog is barking. Okay, so variable view shows you what variables you have, and then in data view, you will have all the data. My initial data set was 274 cases, and now as you can see, I have about double of that. So that's it as far as merging goes. I can now close the other windows as they are not important to me. You can save them if you like. I always recommend saving if you feel that you're going to use it again. And so right now, I have this data set out of which I want to work. If you look down to the variable view, in the variable view, you will find an interesting variable called firm size. I always recommend that you take a look at it. And by take a look at it, I mean go to Analyze, Frequencies, and I like to change it to displaying variable names. And the firm size, I'm going to move it over here. Before I choose any statistics, I'd like to just look at the frequency table to see what level of measurement it is, so I choose the correct measures of dispersion. So as you can see, this is a standard ordinal level measurement, whereas you have categories. There's some order implied, meaning much smaller seems to be the smallest and much larger seems to be the largest. And so it grows sort of one after another. So there's an order to it, and there are categories. Since we cannot measure the distance between smaller and much smaller, or roughly equal and smaller, this is a classic ordinal level measurement. So now that I know that, I know if I go back to descriptives, frequency, I can look again at this level of measurement. I can ask for mean and mode, because these would be, and minimum, maximum, this would be appropriate measures for this level of measurement. I hit OK and hit OK. So now I know that median is 2, mode is 1, minimum is 1, maximum is 5. The way they're coded is from 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you'd like to see your coding right next to your label, you can do it if you go to, and I have to poke around because I never remember that part, to Edit, Options, Output, and change labels to names and labels. Again, labels to values and labels, and same with the pivot table labeling, just so you can see them in the output. So I go to Analyze, Descriptives again, because these things don't get updated automatically. You have to rerun it to see the changes. And now you can see the coding right next to the values. All right. So let's think about this variability here. So in a firm size comparison to your own, how big is the supplier? So with respect to sales volume last year, how large is your firm relatively to your supplier? Much smaller, smaller, roughly equal, larger, much larger. Let's say that your manager would like to collapse this into only 3 possible options: smaller, roughly equal, or larger. This is a very useful technique to use, very simple but useful, because a lot of times in survey data, we'd like to collapse our customers if they agree, are neutral, or disagree. We tend to collect data with more variability because we do need it for more advanced statistics, but for basic reporting, we might need to collapse. Another time when we like to collapse our data to maybe 3 options, and this is particularly useful in very simple segmenting approaches, for example, based on involvement or usage rate, how much your customer use a product, this is exactly when we collapse. We may have very advanced variable, high-level measurement variable, I should say, and we may want to collapse it into smaller groupings. So, for example, when it comes to usage rates, low, medium, and high usage rates is a very typical way of segmenting customers. So we could use this technique that I'm about to show you for that as well. So what I'm doing, I'm just relying on this very simple variable to show you a technique that you can apply in various situations. So here you go. Let's go to transform, and you can recode it into a different variable. You have 2 options here. You recode into the same one or recode into a different one. I strongly recommend that you use recode into a different one, different variable, so that you can have a original copy and a new variable. There's a reason to it. Once you recode into the same variable, you will not be able to trace back and have it back to the original file. Second, if you make a mistake, well, you're out of luck, to be honest, and then you're in a bunch of trouble because unless you have saved the original file, you cannot turn the hands of time back again. So here you go. Record into a different variable. And let's just call it firm size truncated. Firm size truncated. If you wonder why I'm using underscores, it's because variable name in SPSS does not allow spaces. So you can give it a label. This allows spaces, and I would say firm size truncated to 3 versus 5 options, however you want to call it. All right. So make sure that change went into effect. All the new values. Here you go. So you could do 2 ways, much smaller and smaller. You could use a range from 1 to 2, or in case a variable where you have more variability, right, than just 2, or that's just another way of doing. You can use a range lowest through value, and that case would be 2. Okay, so 1 through 2 becomes a variable 1. Value label 1. Then roughly equal is now coded as 3, and you would like to recode it into 2. So you have 1 to 3 later on. And now larger and much larger, you could either go range through highest value, which in this case would be 4, and the highest 5, or you can use this range, which just includes 4 through 5. And it becomes our 3. Oops. Just in case there are any other values, you can just copy all other values into copy all values. And so everything else gets copied in case there are any missing, not applicable, and so on. Continue. You can again paste it and then run it out of syntax or hit OK. And now for comparison, you can, before we actually compare, I recommend that you go into your file, variable view, and you see here is a your new old variable firm size and new variable firm size truncated. The difference between the two is that this firm size, the original value, has already value labels attached to them, while your new one doesn't. So if you remember, value 1 was smaller, 2 was about equal, or roughly equal, I think that's what they said, and 3 is larger. Hit OK. Now you can compare how these variables stack up next to each other. So the old variable firm size, new variable firm size truncated, hit OK, and now you can see first one was much smaller and smaller. 260 plus 104 makes 364, and that's what your smaller comes down to, or adds up to, I should say. Roughly equals the same as it was. And then larger is a combination of larger and much larger, which adds up to 108. And now you have effectively collapsed a variable that has much more variability. Typically, it would like to keep variability, but sometimes it makes sense to collapse a variable into fewer options, right? A lot of times it helps with understanding. Other situation, it may be helpful to have fewer groups for analysis. And sometimes, like I said, basic segmentation may be based on levels of involvement or usage rates, like I said before. So low usage rate, medium usage rate, or high usage rates. Very nice way of segmenting customer in a quite basic way. Okay, so that is it for this session. I hope you found it useful. In the next SPSS session, I would like to talk about percentile analysis and how to analyze percentiles and how to use them in your future. So until the next time, bye-bye.